All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're looking at Mark Bates' commentary on Genesis 44 today, and let me tell you, we are going to uncover the massive, incredible theological weight behind Judah's choices. Now, if you know the story of Joseph and his brothers, you already know it's this wild saga of jealousy, betrayal, and crazy unexpected reunions. But when we strip away that surface-level family drama, what we actually find is a profound narrative of redemptive history hiding just beneath the surface. It's absolutely fascinating.
To really grasp the character arcs at play here, we have to start by asking a monumental question about this deeply fractured covenant family. You see, Yahweh made a pledge to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that through their seed, all the families of the earth would be blessed, right? But here is the massive tension. For this divine promise plan to actually work, the family has to survive. And I don't just mean biologically, they have to survive as a moral entity. That long-standing toxic fraternal division, the one that really kicked off when they threw Joseph in a pit, has to be resolved. Because God isn't going to use a vessel that's constantly threatening to just destroy itself from the inside out.
Okay, so that brings us to Section 1, the Silver Cup Trap, or as we like to call it, engineering a crisis.
Joseph mechanically orchestrates this intense test with 3 very specific instructions for his steward. Fill their sacks with food, give them all their money back, and conceal his personal silver cup in Benjamin's sack. Now, why do this? This wasn't just Joseph being vindictive or holding a grudge. This was a highly deliberate trap designed to perfectly recreate the exact conditions of their past betrayal. He's putting Benjamin, Rachel's only other son, in mortal jeopardy to see, are the older brothers going to abandon this favored child just like they did to him decades ago? Will they throw Benjamin under the bus to save their own skins?
And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the specific Hebrew word used here, Nahash. When the steward catches up to the panicked brothers, he doesn't just accuse them of swiping some random piece of silverware. He makes sure to specify that it's the cup Joseph uses for drinking and divination. In the ancient Near Eastern world, a divination cup was a huge deal, a major symbol of spiritual discernment and royal insight. So within the story, this specific detail brilliantly frames the theft to echo Joseph's old predictive dreams. You know, the very same dreams that originally provoked his brother's violent envy in the first place.
The brothers, though, they are completely clueless about this covert setup. They offer up this passionate defense, reminding the steward, hey, we voluntarily brought back the money we found in our sacks earlier. In their supreme confidence, they swear this insanely severe oath. They boldly proclaim that whoever has the cup should just die, and the rest will become slaves. I mean, talk about backing yourself into a corner. They are entirely convinced of their own innocence, with no idea that the trap is about to spring on the worst possible person.
Which leads us right into Section 2, the Divine Inquest. It is time to confront some seriously buried guilt.
So the cup is found in Benjamin's sack, and they trudge back to the palace in absolute mourning. They prostrate themselves before Joseph, literally fulfilling his childhood dreams right there on the floor. Judah steps up as the spokesman. Now, he knows for a fact they didn't steal that silver cup, but pay close attention to the word he uses. He confesses that God has found out their Awon, their iniquity. He is not talking about the cup. He is acknowledging the decades of buried guilt and moral failure from selling Joseph all those years ago. Guys, this is a massive spiritual milestone. They're finally recognizing their suffering not as some stroke of bad luck, but as God's righteous judgment for what they did.
And Joseph, he cranks the dial to a 10. He rejects Judah's offer for all of them to become slaves. Instead, he applies maximum pressure with a brutal ultimatum. Only the guilty party, Benjamin, stays. The rest of you? You're completely free to go back home to your dad in peace. He is handing them a perfectly legal golden ticket out of Egypt. But taking it requires them to do the one thing he's testing for. They'd have to abandon Rachel's remaining son all over again just to save themselves.
Let's look at Section 3, Judah's ultimate sacrifice. What follows is actually the longest speech in the entire book of Genesis. Instead of fleeing, Judah steps forward and delivers this exquisite, incredibly vulnerable plea. He focuses entirely on the grief of their father, Jacob, who explicitly said that losing Benjamin would literally put him in his grave. Judah explains to Joseph that he pledged himself as rob for Benjamin. He took personal, substitutionary responsibility for the boy's safe return. It's a binding legal and moral obligation, and he flat out refuses to break it.
Just look at this comparison. It's practically night and day. Think back to the Judah of Genesis 37. He was a self-interested broker looking at his own brother in a pit, thinking, hey, how can I turn a quick profit selling him to the Ishmaelites? We know his moral failure got totally exposed by Tamar in chapter 38, which was his initial wake-up call. But now, here in Genesis 44, we are looking at a radically changed man. He isn't just admitting he was wrong, he is taking active, self-sacrificing action, literally offering himself as a lifelong slave to buy his brother's freedom.
And here is the absolute climax of that speech. Let your servant remain instead of the lad. With this single, staggering offer to become a direct substitute, Judah proves that the toxic jealousy that once poisoned their entire family, it's finally dead. He has officially placed his father's love for another brother above his own freedom.
Moving into Section 4, we look at the promise plan theology and how God is actively refining the bearers of his promise.
Bates points out a truly profound truth here. God's ultimate purpose wasn't just to keep Abraham's descendants from starving to death during a regional famine. God is basically doing open-heart surgery on the patriarchal family so that they actually reflect his own redemptive character. This transformation was absolutely necessary so the promise plan could advance organically, rather than being completely destroyed by their own internal hatred.
Because Judah steps up, this amazing domino effect happens. The family fracture is finally healed. The covenant lineage is preserved safely as a unified moral entity down in Egypt. And crucially, Judah himself is elevated to a place of royal prominence among his brothers. This one moment of sacrifice perfectly sets the stage for Jacob's famous blessing in Genesis 49, which prophesies that the ultimate ruler, Shiloh, will emerge specifically from the tribe of Judah.
And that brings us to Section 5, Echoes in the New Testament. This is literally the blueprint for the Messiah.
You see, the Old Testament history we just covered acts as a literal mold for New Testament theology. If you look at Hebrews, Christ is recognized as arising from Judah, acting as the ultimate guarantor, just like Judah acted as surety. Then over in Romans, it echoes this substitutionary love, someone willingly stepping in to suffer for the guilty. Galatians reminds us that keeping this family from self-destructing preserved the literal bloodline of Christ. And in Philippians, Judah volunteering to be a bondslave, that points directly to Christ emptying himself to take the form of a servant.
So here is the big so what that you should take away from all this. Genesis 44 is not just an emotional climax to a great story. It provides the absolute foundational theology for understanding substitutionary grace. God used Judah stepping forward to bear the judgment for Benjamin as the historical blueprint for Jesus Christ stepping into human history to bear the judgment of sin for his people.
It's just an absolute masterclass in how God's plan unfolds. I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on today. If a deeply fractured, broken family can be entirely healed and preserved through one genuine act of self-sacrifice, how might that same kind of substitutionary love rewrite our own history today? It's a really powerful question to carry with you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep digging into these amazing sources.